Ryan, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, some of our listeners may be familiar with what Strider is, the Strider bikes. Their kids may have them. They may have seen kids tooling around the neighborhood on a Strider bike, but folks probably don't know much about the backstory. How did the Strider bike come about?
It was a Saturday afternoon project in my garage. I'm a motorcycle enthusiast. I've been really on motorcycles my whole life. My dad had a Yamaha dealership when I was a little kid, kind of a dream childhood there. Your dad had all the fun toys. Rode motorcycles for most of my life, kind of got away from it for a little while there while I was doing, adult things, trying to get businesses running and everything. And kind of found my way back to it and just really fell in love with it again. And that was right about the time I had my first child also. And so it was a little boy. And when he was about two, I was just so enamored with motorcycling again, kind of having it really come back into my life that I just was super excited to get him riding and really just exploring how to teach him to ride. And boy, I bought everything that was on the market. I think every little scoot toy and tricycle and three-wheeled little walker and everything, and had a little Yamaha 50 with training wheels for him, the whole works, and all the way down that path. Kind of realized that, this stuff just it's not working. It's too big, it's too complicated, and it's not really focusing on the fundamental skill, which is getting him on two wheels. And so it just kind of started me thinking about that whole process, and it finally led me to the garage, and I started chopping up his little bike, trying to figure out how to get it small enough and light enough to really fit him, and simple enough that he could understand it at just 2 years old, and ended up with what basically is the Strider today. And he took to it. I mean, he was all of a sudden just very, very mobile, and not just on flat concrete. I mean, he was out in the yard and going over tree roots and like just going everywhere on this little bike, and kind of opened my eyes to the possibilities of what this little bike could be.
So, for somebody who maybe hasn't seen a Strider bike, describe exactly what one is.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, it's just what they would call a walking bike. So it is simply the two wheels, the frame, seat, and handlebars. There's no drivetrain, no pedals, no electric motor, nothing. For us older folks, it's Fred Flintstone power. You're sitting on the bike,
Right,
your
right.
feet are on the ground, and you just walk or run with it. But you got two wheels and a frame underneath you and handlebars out in front of you. So it lets you really just focus on that fundamental skill of how to keep those two wheels centered underneath you. And then it still allows you to experience how a bike leans. So it's that counter steer, lean, steer. That's all of the pieces that are missing from a tricycle or a bike with training wheels, is you never get to experience how to generate a lean and then how to control it through steering and counter steering. And that's really what I was after. I knew there was this piece missing whenever you're on three or four wheels, and that's what I wanted to get to. And the walking bike design was what allowed that. And that's not anything new, really. Walking bikes have been around for 200 years. They predate the bicycle. Before we had pedals and cranks, it was just a walking machine. And there had been these designs out, more common in Europe, probably. I think what really helped with Strider is I kind of went into it from an enthusiast perspective. It's like I wanted the thing to really perform. It wasn't some little two-wheeled wooden goofy toy. It was like, no, I want it to be a performance bike for my 2-year-old so that he can really become proficient at riding. And then I can get him on a pedal bike and a dirt bike. And, Pee Wee motocross starts at 4. So we got to get going here.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. So, one of my riding buddies, he had a son. He's got two kids now, but his oldest is just now turned 6. And when he was about 18 months, I got him a Strider for Christmas, got him a helmet, got him a cool like Captain America, red, white, and blue, Stars and Stripes helmet. And it was interesting to watch him start to get used to using a Strider. They They
Yep.
the kid, it's like any other toy. They're going to sort of like play with it a little bit, figure out what it's how it works, and they're a little bit sort of maybe, well, stutter step a little bit. But as he played with it more and more, and we've got kind of a cul-de-sac and a bunch of cul-de-sacs in our neighborhood, and he would get more and more confident. And then before I know it, you just like I saw him one day, and he's just ripping,
Yep.
up and down the street, and then of course once he graduated to a pedal bicycle, he was super confident and fast. And so I can see exactly what you're saying, how quickly somebody can progress from just getting comfortable with the balance. But once it clicks, and once they at that age, you don't really have any fear, and you just sort of you've got that almost built-in confidence, and he was just having
Y-
a blast.
Yep. Yep. For sure. And, when you're on a bicycle with training wheels, you don't, I mean, you might spend 2 years on that bike, and some kids do, but you don't actually start learning how to ride until the day you take them off. Those first 2 years, they really were kind of worthless. They were just biding time until day one when you took them off. That's the day you started learning two-wheeled bike handling
Right.
ability. But with the Strider Path, it's like you're learning that from day one. You can spend 2 or 3 years on a Strider, and then the first day you get on a bike with pedals or on a little Stasic or a PW50 or whatever, your 2 years of experience apply immediately. You can put a kid that's been on a Strider for several years on a PW, and you show them how to turn the throttle and hopefully pull the brakes, but they know how to ride. They're actually good riders right away. So you take them out to a grassy field and show them brake and throttle, and boom, they're off and riding, and they're capable riders day one.
Absolutely. Yeah. I
Yep.
mean, I can totally see how that, like I said, that is the part to really master. And if you can master it at such a young age, when it's everything's just sort of big, I mean, they're developing so fast in so many
Yep.
ways, it just becomes second nature. Um,
Yep.
so how did you go from, I mean, so you, all right, so you built your son a Strider in your garage, but now, I mean, I see Striders and, Targets and everywhere. I was just at Americade at the KTM tent. They had an orange KTM branded Strider. I know you've got, they've got branded ones for different other manufacturers. So how do you go from
Yep.
the first Strider in your garage to where we are today with the Strider?
Just a lot of hard work. No, I really wasn't setting out to start a business on this. That was kind of the interesting thing, is I built this thing and it really worked, and it worked so well, we took it everywhere. So, I mean, like, we retired the stroller. We never carried our kid again. I don't think. It was like, if we had to go somewhere, we just put him on the little bike and boom, he's as mobile as an adult. And so subsequently, we took it everywhere. And then we would have strangers coming up to us, really every time we're out in public, saying, "Oh my gosh, how old is that little kid? Where'd you get that bike? What is that? I've never seen a kid move around so well at such a young age." And so it became evident there was a business opportunity there. And so, just kind of jumped in. I've always been a little bit of an entrepreneur in different markets and everything. I had some experience in the bicycle industry from, probably 15 years prior, because I've always been into mountain biking as well. And so I did have some inroads there that helped to get it off the ground. And really, then it's just having a passion for it and finding like-minded people to join the team. That so many of the early employees with Strider, they were all friends that had also little kids that went through the Strider experience, and so they're just as passionate about it as I was and am. Once you see what it does for a child's development and their confidence, it's like, you just kind of get a fire for pushing it forward. And but yeah, I mean, it came a long way from a Saturday project to we've sold about 3.5 million of those bikes now, and we sell them all over the world. We've got franchisees, Europe and Asia and Central and South America, and so you can get a Strider bike just about anywhere now.
Well, and over the years, your product line, I know you have your sort of like the main Strider bike is like you said, the walking, the no pedal balance
Yep.
bike, but your product line is expanded over time. You've got them that have you've got a one for even
Yep,
younger children, and then they can kind of graduate to one with pedals. So what kind of products have
you bet.
evolved over time?
Yeah, the main bike was a 12-inch wheel tire. So that's like overall diameter. Bike and moto are measured a little bit differently, but the outside diameter of that tire is a little under 12 inches, just so people kind of have a perspective on that. That's really been our bread and butter, and that really serves kind of a 2 to 4 year old child. That's the sweet spot of that product. And but we want to try and get kids introduced to a bike as early as possible. So we built a rocking base that the bike fits on. So instead of people buying like a rocking horse that really doesn't, there's no future to a rocking horse,
Right.
but if it's a rocking bike, we're getting kids on that rocking bike as young as 6 months. They can't even walk yet they're crawling up onto this thing. They're able to sit on a bike. And so what we have to understand for a child that young, this is all new. Even the idea that, hey, you hold on to these two rubbery things out in front of you on this weird bar, and you sit on this thing here that's kind of triangular, with a leg on each side of it. These are all new experiences for a tiny, tiny child. But what's cool about this is when you really think about the numbers, if you get a child playing on this little rocking bike at 6 months old, when they're 18 months old, they've spent 2/3 of their life uh, having fun on essentially a bike and a two-wheeled bike. And then that bike detaches from the rocking base, and they experience this whole new freedom and independence with this thing that's already been fun to them. Now it brings on this whole new life of freedom and independence
Sure.
and speed. And then so that gets them to 4 years old maybe. We can stretch that a little bit more. Kids that really like them and play with them get to doing tricks and everything on them might play with them a bit longer, even though they can ride other stuff. But we knew we kind of needed that next transition bike. So the 14-inch Strider was our next development, and it's a 14-inch pneumatic wheel. And it has the ability to add a drivetrain to it. So you add pedals, a very slick design. It starts out as a balance bike. So it's exactly what kids have already been doing. So it's an easy transition. The only change is we're going from the 12-inch Strider bike to a little bit bigger Strider bike. Looks basically the same, acts the same. It's just a little bigger. So you're getting used to that heavier weight. Get comfortable on that, get your riding skills dialed in and your confidence up. And then it's a very simple 1 minute, 1 bolt transition. And now you've got a pedal mechanism right in that same bike. So you're not jumping to a completely new bike with different geometry and size and weight. It's the very same bike you've been playing on, you're all dialed in on, and now there's pedals there. And so instead of gliding along with your feet up on footrest, you put them on pedals, and then you say, hey, well, while they're sitting there, why don't you turn them? And boom, you're riding a bike. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So really that's our line, kind of 0 to 6 years old. And when they leave our product line, they're ready for anything, any of the major manufacturer bicycles or motorcycles at that point. They've got the skills to run up the ladder as far as they want to go. But that's what we really feel like we provide, is we're the first rung on the ladder, maybe the second or third rung if you put these other pieces in there. And from there, kids have the foundation to go as far as they want to go with this experience.
Well, it's interesting is that it's not just for individual kids, though. I know it was not too long after the Strider was developed. There was the Strider World Cup. Is that what it's called? Or cup?
Yeah.
So
So the
what sort of
Strider,
competition was set up early on? Because it's like you've got one bike, it's a rider. You got two bikes, it's a race.
exactly. Yep. Yeah. I've been a race fan my whole life, race motorcycles and mountain bikes and stock cars and all that stuff. So yeah, even when we were still back with prototypes, we had kids racing them. So, the Strider Cup, that started in 2010. And actually it was our franchisee. We were doing small races, but it was our franchisee in Japan that really put the first big race together. And that really took off from there. They'll have 500 kids at a Strider race
Wow.
in Tokyo, and that's limiting it. They'd have 2,000 if they had open registration, but they have to limit it because there's just so many kids and they're into it. And the races there are phenomenal. I mean, all the bikes are customized. There's titanium and carbon wheels, and they, just all kinds of modifications. We make actually a full carbon Strider. It's a $900 retail, full carbon wheels, carbon frame and fork, carbon handlebars and seat post. We sell them by the thousands in Asia. We'll sell a handful here in the States, but
Unbelievable.
they
Wow.
are crazy into it over there. And you can watch videos on YouTube. If you search Japan Strider races, it's amazing racing. These kids at 4 years old, like they're developing racecraft. They're checking their shoulders. They're seeing where competition are. They're blocking lines, and they're going through a turn with feet up, like at speed, feet up, 45-degree lean angle, with sticky pneumatic tires on them and everything. And just, it's really amazing. And so, I flash forward there and I think, man, most of us didn't even know how to ride a bike yet. And these kids they're so far advanced that there will come a day in not that distant future where, the champions in pretty much all two-wheeled sports are going to say, yeah, I started when I was 2 on my Strider, been racing ever since.
I mean, I was just
Fun.
thinking that. I was like, that's basically the farm team for, MotoGP riders, in a country
Yep.
like that where, because, for example, you got a lot of MotoGP riders from Spain, but like you've got to have a culture that really cultivates it from a
Right.
very young age. And so that kind of racing, that's really
Yep.
awesome. That's
Yeah,
cool.
I mean, I remember being in Tokyo at one of the races, and one of the dads and his son, he's like won the championship for several years, and he said, "Yes, we're going to be more successful than Mark Marquez." I mean, it's there in
Wow.
his head, and his kid's 4,
That's cool.
and he's like crazy fast. So it doesn't surprise me if he will be there someday. So.
Well, so in addition to the sort of community of Strider riders at a young age, I know that you do a lot to give back to try to cultivate, riding among young children. So tell us about the Strider Education Foundation, or is you had the Strider Rider Fund was started in 2014, the Strider Education Foundation in 2017. Tell us about those.
Yep. Yeah, always like to try and, I guess, give back, and we've been really lucky or blessed or all of the above, I guess. And this business has gone well, and so in 2014 we kind of made that official, and really said, you know what, we're just going to give 1% of gross revenue off the top, whether we're profitable or not, just 1% off the top, no matter what. Earmark it for benevolence focused on children's health. And that really, it's kind of a big, scary decision to make that bold of a commitment, but it's been awesome ever since. And it's amazing to see how that money stacks up. And then with it already determined, you're going to do good works with it, that it's so easy to just start doling it out on different projects, whether it's trail projects or giving bikes to Special Olympics teams, or just whatever it would be. We had this pot of money in it, and that your intent there is to just give it away, and that's just a really fun position to be in. And then really in 2017, we kind of took that next step and said, let's try and develop a nonprofit that our contributions can all dump into there, but then we also have a means for other people to join us that like the benevolent work that we're doing, that's going to have an impact on children's health. So we started that in 2017. The nonprofit world's a little different than business, and it took a while to kind of figure out how that all works and everything. So we kind of, I guess, not really struggled, but we just didn't have a real good focus that first year. It was just kind of all over the place, shotgun approach there. And And but through it all, we're doing a lot of research, and I just kept looking at these staggering numbers of ridership decline. In the United States, the number of kids that ride bicycles is dropping by 250,000 kids a year. 3/4 of American kids won't ride a bicycle even one time this year. I mean, this is where we're at. So it was like this shotgun approach, a little bit here, a little bit there. It's just, this isn't going to work. I mean, we got a giant hole in the bottom of the bucket, and we're trying to put teaspoons in at the top, and so we kind of thought we've got to figure out how to get the greatest number of kids riding in the shortest amount of time at the youngest age possible. It's like, that's really framed it. We need like the nuclear option here, we're
Right.
to that point. And when we really framed it that way, it kind of drove us to our focus. And we have to get into the school system, the public school system. That's where you reach every kid. And it can't be like an after school program or something. It's got to be core curriculum. And then you look at, well, what ages can we serve? And it drives you to kindergarten. We'd go to kids even younger if we could, but there is no good structure younger than that.
Right.
Preschool is not organized. Every elementary school has kindergarten, and it has standard curriculum. And so, we start looking at it, think that is the paradigm shift that changes everything. If you could get learning to ride a bike as part of core curriculum in kindergarten PE, so that every kid learned this skill, it would change everything. I mean, it would change bicycling's future, motorcycling's future. It would change infrastructure and advocacy on a national scale. I mean, there's no end. It is the foundation that everything builds upon. Just recruitment of new riders in the future. If they're all pedal capable, they're all prospects. Right now, the majority of kids are not pedal capable and never become pedal capable. So when you look at the Motorcycle Safety Foundation's first bullet point to take their course, their basic rider course, the first bullet point is must be able to balance and ride a bicycle. Like, right. We've set that as the requirement to even come talk to us about entering the moto club.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny for me because as you're talking about this, like, so those of us that I don't even remember at what age I learned to ride a bicycle because I was so young. You take it for granted. You assume that other people had a similar kid. That's what childhood was. I mean, I grew up in the 70s. You just assume that that's how you got around the neighborhood. I lived in a big neighborhood, but you're absolutely right. It's like, I always think of, well, the barrier to entry for people to become motorcyclists is learning how to operate the controls, the two brake levers, and they've got to shift with their foot and they've got to use the clutch and all that. But I had just assumed they already know how to ride a bicycle. But if they aren't comfortable riding a bicycle, then you're even farther. You have an even higher wall to overcome.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of one of the biggest assumptions. Even the bicycle industry, which is very much focused on like the sport side of bicycling and teen and adult riders. They're still making the assumption that all kids are learning how to ride bikes. They're still making that assumption that they've got riders automatically coming up as prospects for everything that they're trying to sell. And that's not the case at their level. And then certainly motorcycling's even further removed. This is just an interesting example. And I'm with you. It's like when we started the foundation, we're really digging into these numbers. I couldn't believe them, like, what? This is not possible. How can all these kids not know how to ride and stuff? But, we get a ton of calls at Strider from parents and grandparents to say, I've got an 8-year-old that doesn't know how to ride. And, that's part of what started us down this path. It's like, what is going on? I can't believe we're even getting these calls, but the calls keep coming, So it's just, it's been really eye-opening to see what the experience is for the masses, because motorcyclists and bicyclists, they are a very small niche group, and our reality is not the reality for most. I'll give you one example that just was really telling. We did a pilot program in a kindergarten, was in a school in in Staten Island. And we ended up running it with their first graders because they really didn't even, the teachers really didn't even think that kindergartners could even do this. And 32 kids in the class, first grade. So this is 6 years old. And not a single kid knew how to ride a bike. Only 2 kids had even been on a bike, and that was a bike with training wheels.
Wow.
And we ran the curriculum, and all 32 kids are now pedal capable. You know, their world view has changed about personal mobility and what a vehicle can provide and how they can be in control of that vehicle. I mean, it truly is a game changer. But that's kind of what we're up against. That school, you know, not one kid in it. And we've run into a lot of schools too, where the PE teacher doesn't know how to ride a bike, which blows me away. But that's the reality out there. And so, you know, there have been a lot of attempts to get programs into schools like this, but like so many things, they've started too far up the ladder. They've made the assumption that kids know how to ride. So it's going to be, hey, we're going to put in a mountain biking class for our middle school kids, or we're going to put in a bike traffic safety class for our third graders. And they try to run it and it falls apart because half the kids don't know how to ride, and they don't even want to reveal that kind of embarrassing secret to their peers. And so they just won't participate in the class, and the teacher then doesn't know what to do. So the whole thing just falls apart and the bike program goes away. So what we've done with our program is really dial it down to the lowest common denominator. We're going to assume that the teacher knows nothing about bikes, and we're going to assume that the child knows nothing about bikes, and we're going to help the teacher become confident enough to take on the curriculum, which is very easy. But when you mention the word, hey, we want you to teach kids how to ride bikes, I mean, a lot of teachers get kind of scared at the prospect of that. And so we kind of need to walk them through the process that, no, it's very simple. We've made it super easy, and you will be successful. And then we get them into it. And then we also have it set up to where it is assuming nothing from the child's standpoint, like they know nothing. They've never been on anything with 2 wheels that they've had to balance. And we see that is the reality when we go into the schools too. So we'll take that child from this is a bike, you straddle it, hold on here, sit here, and we're going to just walk forward, develop our balance and understanding of how it steers and moves. And we eventually get, 6 lessons in, then we're putting pedals on it. And by 8 lessons in, they're pedaling around, a complete game changer from where they were.
So this all kids bike program is launched about 3 years ago, roughly. I mean, how is it rolled out so over the past, how's it going?
Yep. So November 2018 is when we started that program. So that was kind of that focal point. All kids bike, kindergarten PE, learn to ride program. We are in 45 states. We should have programs running in all 50 states by the end of the year. We've got over 400 schools running the program. We've probably got 50 schools like in the process of teachers training, and we've got over 500 schools on a waiting list for the program. So, and that's without us really even pursuing the schools now. They're just hearing about it. So at this point, it's, finding the money to keep it rolling. Strider puts a bunch of money into that and subsidizes the majority of every one of those programs, but we still need about $5,000 worth of outside support to get a school fully up and running. And that's a one-time cost of $5,000. That trains the teachers, gets them all the equipment, everything they need. But that program is going to last 5 to 10 years in the school without any further financial support. So you place it once and it's running. And I truly believe that that's a one-time deal from outside the school system. Once the teachers are running this program and administrative folks see the effectiveness of it, it will become part of school budgets moving forward. They'll make sure that they maintain their equipment, and bikes in schools are going to be as common as, the desks and the basketballs and the books. and learning to ride a bike in kindergarten will be the #1 physical education skill that children leave kindergarten with. So, but if we get that paradigm to shift and it really becomes that valuable in the eyes of the school system, I mean, that's a game changer for bicycle motorcycle industry for sure.
Oh, I mean, it's just not just that, but just, I mean, children's health and lifestyle. I mean, just being able, you were talking about freedom and independence. I mean, the confidence they build just by having a new skill and being able to, just the sense of individual mobility on something like a bike of
Yep.
whatever kind, whether it's a bicycle or a moped or a motorcycle. So
Yep.
so is you're talking about the additional support. Is there ways in which individual people can, is All Kids
Y-
Bike something people can
You bet.
contribute to or something? How does
You
this work?
bet. Yep, yep. So All Kids Bike really is the campaign of Strider Education Foundation. That's a separate entity from Strider Bikes. It's a 501c3. So if you go to allkidsbike.org, there's information all about the program. If you're a teacher, you can actually apply for your school to receive the program. You can donate to general fund. You can also go right on there and see all the schools that are in the process of raising funds. You can contribute to an individual school. I mean, that's kind of a fun deal. Sometimes we've got schools on that waiting list that are, they got $3,000, $4,000 raised, and somebody can jump in there, a business or something can kind of jump in and be the hero and get them across the finish line,
Great.
and we're rolling. So.
Well, that's great that people can contribute at whatever amount they're comfortable with, and there's individual schools they could support and maybe get behind. Maybe there's one in their local area. So,
Yep.
Ryan, I have to say this is. I mean, I was always thought the Strider was a cool thing. I did a review in Rider magazine when I gave one to my niece and and my buddy's friend Augie, and and it has been really cool to watch them. But just to see that it's not only a great vehicle for kids to learn how to ride and get the sense of balance, but that you've taken it to this point where it's not just about building a successful company, but a successful movement that can really transform, the lives of children, their health, but also, industries that are really struggling to figure out how are we going to have the next generation of riders? Because we want to have those people that they can, not just sell motorcycles to, but to have a healthy industry, you need to,
Yep.
you need to have replacement. You need to have the next generation. So
Yep.
I really applaud what you and your team are doing, Ryan.
Well, thank you. Yep, appreciate it. It's fun work and rewarding work, and so we're just feeling really lucky to be able to do it.
Well, one other thing I want to mention is because I first heard you speak at the IMS Progressive IMS Outdoor Show in Northern California, and I know the shows have been. I think the next one this is September 30th when we're recording it. There's going to be one in Texas this weekend. Is at all of the Progressive IMS Outdoor Show. There is a kid zone with Strider. So tell us a little bit about that.
You bet. Yeah, that's the team's actually down there right now, and as part of the IMS show series this year, the Strider team is on site with what we call Adventure Zone for kids. We got the little 12-inch bikes there, and a little course set up for kids that come to the show. They can race around on those bikes, and then we have a separate zone for a little bit bigger kids on the bigger bikes, and with all sorts of cool kind of obstacles and features, teeter totters and balance beams for them to try and ride across. So definitely trying to get kids that come to that show, instead of just walking around looking at a lot of shiny motorcycles that are kind of beyond them, we're trying to really get them engaged, get their butt on a seat, hands on grips, and getting a good taste of it. So that's been a lot of fun, and I really like the new format that IMS has adopted with the outdoor series. That just totally makes sense. I mean, our sport is all about being outside and on machines, and now that is really coming to life. The other cool thing about working with IMS this year is we're also working with them on the foundation side. So every city that we visit, we're connecting with a school there and delivering a program. So just today, I just got some photos about an hour ago. Robert Pandya, who's working the Discover the Ride portion of the IMS show, and we had Brienne from our All Kids Bike team was down there, and they were out at a school, and they built a whole fleet of bikes with the teachers there, and then did a big reveal of the bikes and program to the kids there at the school. So that just happened today, and then the show kicks off tomorrow, and so even all those kids will get an invite to come out to the show and check it out. But what a cool leave behind from IMS to come into the city, put on a great show for the enthusiasts, but to leave behind a program in a local elementary school that's going to teach kids how to ride bikes for years and years to come.
Absolutely. Well, hey, Ryan, I really appreciate you telling us the story of Strider Bikes and All Kids Bike. We'll definitely have links to the show note in our show notes. Is there anything else you want to say before we sign off?
Sounds great. Threw a few numbers out there, but kind of the one that really maybe encourages people to get involved is what it comes down to with that program, the All Kids Bike program, is we're teaching kids how to ride bikes for less than $10 a kid. So, if you got $10, it will change a child's life. They will experience the fun and joy of two wheels, and hopefully they'll carry that all the way through their life and join us on motorcycles someday.
Awesome. Well, those of you listening, allkidsbike.org, is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah, go there. Like I said, you can get a kid on a bicycle for $10. So support this great cause. So thanks again for coming on the show, Ryan.
My pleasure.
For the Rider Magazine Insider Podcast, I'm Greg Drevenstead. Thanks for listening, and keep the rubber side down.
If you've enjoyed listening to the Rider Magazine Insider Podcast, please subscribe, leave us a positive rating, and tell your friends. We also encourage you to visit ridermagazine.com, where you can get the latest in motorcycle news and reviews and sign up for our free weekly newsletter. You can also subscribe to print and digital editions of Rider Magazine, which is published 12 times a year. Thanks again for listening.